fine here. Hope you're doing fabulous as always. So, guys, today I wanted to talk to you about your victory and where it comes from is in your vulnerability. Now, you might be saying, well, that doesn't sound right, Ron. You know, victory is usually coming through strength. And you would typically be wrong when you said that. You know, I mean, there are occasions you have to be strong in adversity. Yes, agreed. However, your victory actually comes from your vulnerability. And I was thinking about this because, you know, my son is leaving for the Marines on Monday. And, you know, I was like, you know, why do they have to take them away to boot camp to do the training? I mean, realistically, every recruitment office probably has the ability to do all the training there right at the boot camp, right? Right at the training office. I mean, my son's over there 3 days a week, typically training and getting ready for boot camp. So if he's getting ready there for boot camp, it would mean that, you know, with very little effort, they could do everything that they needed to do right there at the recruitment center. But that can't be the case. The reason is because they need to get those kids out of where they're comfortable. They need to get them where they're in an environment of vulnerability, because you can't be successful if you're not vulnerable. You have to be able to say, wait a second, I'm not comfortable. I don't like this situation. This makes me vulnerable. And it's in that vulnerability state, it's in that vulnerable state that you have the opportunity to flourish. Because when you are around an environment where you're comfortable, you never tend to go beyond that comfort zone. You follow me? It wasn't until a place where they've been told no so many times, they're not comfortable, they're hurting, they're in pain, and through that rejection, through that pain of the circumstances that they're going through, and that's when you find out the true character of a person. That's when you find out where you have the potential to go in life. You know, there's a story in the Bible where Jesus is in this city. I think it's in like Mark 8 or 28 or something. I forget the exact scripture. But these people bring this blind man in, and they say, just touch him, and you know, they know he'll be healed, right? But what happens is Jesus led him out of the village to get away from the people that could bring him down, the people that would destroy his faith, the people who would be naysayers. And he brought him to a place where he wasn't comfortable, where he didn't know what was happening. He couldn't see, so he doesn't even know where he's at. Jesus is leading him by the hand. And then Jesus spits in the guy's eyes and asks him, can you see? And the guy's like, I can, but I see humans that look like trees moving. So his vision wasn't clear yet. And see, what happened is, if you know anything about the Bible, you know that all it took was one touch from Jesus to heal somebody, right? And so, but yet this guy he didn't get completely healed on that first touch. And he had to be vulnerable enough to talk to this guy who raised the dead, who did so many miracles, who's helped so many people. And he had to be vulnerable enough to say, look, I don't know if you're losing your powers, but I don't see clearly yet. And it was in that moment of vulnerability, it was in that moment where he looked into Jesus's face and said, I see, but I don't see clearly. You know, we have to be able to get out of our village. That means that sometimes you're going to have to leave people behind. That means sometimes you may have to leave that job. That means that sometimes you may have to go out on a limb and do something you don't want to do, because it's in that state of vulnerability that you're able to become strong. It's in that moment of vulnerability that you have the ability to go forward. You know, we as humans say, oh, only the strong survive. And I remember growing up, you know, I didn't have an easy childhood. Most of you know my story. But I refused to cry, you know, I refused it. I mean, it's just like, no, I ain't gonna be no crybaby or whatever. And it wasn't until I learned to cry that I found strength from within. Now, for some of you, that might be foreign, you know, maybe you're like I used to be, where, you know, it had to be a certain way in life. You had to do certain things if you wanted to be a man or a woman, you know. Oh, I got to be strong, I got to be this. And that's true. There are times for you to be strong, especially in the face of adversity. But when you learn to be vulnerable, when you learn to open up your heart, when you learn to put yourself in positions to where you're not comfortable anymore, then you have the opportunity to be successful. When these kids go into the military, they're put into an extreme environment where they're able to take them and mold them into becoming the man, the woman that God created them to be. You know, I heard a statistic, I'm not sure if it's the same now as when I heard it, but when you look at all major Fortune 500 companies, 80% of them are owned, or the CEO is an ex-Marine. Now that's pretty amazing when you stop and think about it. Even if it's not that accurate anymore, it definitely was at one point in time, and if it's not that accurate anymore, it's going to be pretty darn close to where it was. That much I can guarantee you. But why the Marines? Why this branch of the armed forces has so many more successful people than other people? And the reason for that is their training. You know, that they take you and they make sure that by the time you leave basic boot camp, that you have a strong will, a strong mind, a strong spirit, you know, and at that point in time, now you have the ability to be successful. Now you're strong in every area of your life, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, or some people would say spiritually. You know, it really just comes down to, they take them and they break them down and then they build them up. And you cannot go through life with just thinking that it's a bed of roses and that I can live in comfortability and become something greater than what I am. You know, it's just like a bodybuilder. When they work out, they take their muscles and they break it down. They make them vulnerable so that they can build up. So when you start to think about life and you start to think about where you're at, are you playing the game like most people do, just pretending like you're super strong and that, nothing in this world can faze you or hurt you? Are you one of those people that say, I can do this all on my own? Are you one of the people that believe that being vulnerable is actually bad for you? Well, I'm here to tell you guys, being vulnerable is the biggest strength you'll ever have, because it's in that point of vulnerability that you can cry out to God and ask for help. It's in that moment of vulnerability that you are able to see yourself in a new light. It's in that moment of vulnerability that you're able to position yourself to achieve new things. I'll give you a prime example. So when I started working for Fast Signs here in Charlotte, I've been a sales trainer for many, many, many years, more than I can count. And, I've helped a lot of people become successful in sales. And here I am now, this guy that, has had two businesses, helping people, teaching people, guiding people, directing them, to having a job which I knew nothing about. I mean, I knew nothing about science. I knew nothing about different vinyls and laminates and all of this stuff that you needed to know in order to be successful. So in my mind, I'm the successful salesperson, and I literally had to become vulnerable. I literally had to say, I need your help to teach me what it takes in this position. Because I prided myself on, I can go into any sales organization and I can immediately and directly increase sales and revenue. So here I am going into this job, a job that I know nothing about, during a pandemic, and trying to be this successful mentor and building this stuff up. And I'm just like, man, this is not moving. This is going slower than I thought. And I had to, if I wanted to be successful, I had to get vulnerable, and I had to ask for help. I had to let people know that, yes, even though I might be good in other areas, I need your help so that I can become successful in this area, so that I can help this company grow and put food and pay off the bills for me and my family. So it was in that moment of vulnerability that I was able to start to position myself to where now I'm starting to be more successful in this. And it wouldn't have happened, though, if I had just gone around thinking, well, you know what? I know I'm the best salesman around. What I knew about myself was that I needed it. But, at the beginning, it was hard to ask for it. But through my determination, through my vulnerability, through my understanding of what it takes to actually become successful, I was able to take my situation and change it. Is it perfect yet? No, I still got a long way to grow. But that's where vulnerability comes in, because I know I have a lot to grow. I know that there's a lot more for me to learn. However, I know that as long as I can stay humble, as long as I can stay vulnerable, as long as I can stay teachable, then I can do anything that I put my mind to. And so can you. You just need to stay vulnerable. Guys, please get over this notion that only the strong survive. You know, there are a lot of successful people in this world, right? Now, does that mean, well, let me rephrase that. There are a lot of people who've made a lot of money, but does that mean that they're successful? Because success is not just finances. Success is a total package. It's about, your family, your emotions, spiritually, mentally, physically. We have to be successful in every area of life. Because if you've made a lot of money and you haven't learned how to be vulnerable, then chances are you're going to fail at some point in time. If you look at Ford, when he created the cars, he was vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I don't know how to make this happen, but I'm going to hire people. I'm going to bring people around me that can make it happen. He was vulnerable enough to know what he was good at and what he wasn't, and then he made the decision to bring the people in that were right for that opportunity, that position. But he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't vulnerable. He wouldn't have been as successful if he wasn't vulnerable. So guys, I just want to encourage you today to understand vulnerability is where you're able to start becoming who God created you to be. It's in that vulnerability that you and I should find strength, that you and I should find success, that you and I will find that inner peace, and then we can do great things in life, greater than you ever thought. But once again, sometimes that requires you to leave that village, requires you to get away from the circumstances, the situations you're in right now, and then you will become more and more successful. All right, guys, hope you got something out of this short little video. I'm here to give you that spirit of increase, because if you are able to change one person's life, then guys, you're able to do so much more and help this world become the place that God created it to be. All right, guys, as always, make sure you create yourselves a fabulous day.